I am State Senator Bobby Powell, Jr., representing Senate District 30 in Palm Beach County, and this is the Powell Press. I'm bringing you the fourth week of the 2020 legislative session. This is our update, and there are several important issues that I'd like to discuss with you. Today we want to discuss the budget, term limits for school board members, parental consent relating to abortions, and my legislation. My legislation includes error in deeds, juror sanctions, children's mental health, and specialty license plates commemorating the Florida Highwaymen. Appropriations are well underway and stakeholders are continuing to advocate for their legislative priorities. In the Appropriations Committee this week, we discussed the different silos of the $92.8 billion Senate proposed budget. We differ by about $1.43 billion from the House, which will be worked out in the upcoming weeks during the conference process. A bill that proposes an 8-year term limit for school board members here in the state of Florida passed in the Ethics and Elections Committee on a party line vote of 4-3. I was one of the Democrats that voted against that legislation, and it still passed. On the floor, it was an emotionally charged debate when we dealt with abortion. A bill that requires girls under the age of 18 years old to have parental permission prior to having an abortion passed on a party line vote of 23-17, with all Democrats voting against that legislation. In the Infrastructure and Security Committee, I was able to pass a specialty license plate bill commemorating the Florida Highwaymen. The Florida Highwaymen are a group of 26 African-American self-taught artists who created vivid and colorful landscape paintings of the untouched natural environment of Florida. This bill is especially important because it is Black History Month. These men got the nickname Highwaymen from traveling along the highways and going door to door to sell their paintings due to many art galleries refusing to display their work during the Jim Crow era. As many of you may remember the case of Deondre Summerville that made national headlines during the summer when Deondre was sentenced to 10 days in jail, 12 months of probation, 150 hours of community service, and fines and fees, as well as other important sanctions against him for missing jury duty. This week, I was able to move legislation through the Judiciary Committee that will prevent that from happening again. The legislation related to juror sanctions moved through the Judiciary Committee, although initially drafted to eliminate the possibility of any jail time for missing jury duty. The bill was redrafted to match the federal guidelines of a maximum of 3 days in jail and affords a defendant facing criminal contempt the right to an attorney. This bill now moves forward to the Rules Committee. In the Children, Families, and Elder Affairs Committee, I passed a bill on children's mental health. Senate Bill 1440 encourages the use of mobile response teams, improving crisis stabilization services, and facilitating greater collaboration between systems of care and mental health services for children. Children's Mental Health's next stop is Appropriations Subcommittee on Health and Human Services. Finally, this week, as it came to a week of action, this was FAMU Day at the Capitol. As a proud alumni of the Florida A&M University, I was excited to celebrate with all of the Rattlers who were here and to discuss the legislative priorities of that great institution. As a matter of fact, the greatest institution on the highest of 7 hills here in Tallahassee, Florida. FAMU, we're fighting for you. That's all for this week's edition of the Powell Press. I am State Senator Bobby Powell, Jr. Thanking you for joining us. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, and comment to make sure that you have all of the updates of the 2020 legislative session. Remember this, a life of service is a life that counts. And I'll see you next week for week 5 of the 2020 legislative session.